Welcome everyone. Today we have a very exciting build for Wolcen. So what we have today is going to be a permanent invisibility ghost nuclear pretty much ranger. And if you've seen the StarCraft 2 from the ghost section, where the ghost units basically goes invisible and shoots the rifle, and also they have a nuclear launch. So this is the idea that we want to duplicate something that's very similar to the ghost unit in StarCraft 2 or StarCraft 1. So this particular build does not require any particular unique, but there is one unique that would help us a little bit, because if we have the trial, you can put down the trial and also have extra skill slot, which can be flexible. You can go for the blink, you can go for another source of aura, you can go for another source of AoE damage, anything you want. So having the trial there means we don't need the particular stock for Mark of Impurity, but if you don't have it, that's fine. Just use any of the builds and you get better stats, but you do have to manually cast this one when you group them, which is not a big deal, because for us it's a very quick damage and the effect is very straightforward because we basically nuke them when they're together. So let me demonstrate the skills. Mark basically with disabled enemies. Basically with the debuffed enemies with a bunch of debuffs. The best ones are the ones that explode with maximum health and also the spread. After that we got permanent invisibility, just because the items give us pretty much 3-second invisibility and we're always invisible. There is a downside to invisibility, is that units don't follow you if you're always invisible, so we do have to appear now and then to pull them together. Second part is the rifle. As a ghost unit, we do have a pretty nice rifle, as you can see. For the particular rifle, this is the major source of regeneration of willpower, and this is how we start the skills off usually, with the Dusk Shroud or the rifle, the railgun. After that, we have Anomaly. For Anomaly, basically this is a major source of AoE control, and this is a really good spell for us. So what we'll do is we just group them together. We do cast 2 of them. This is a way of expanding the willpower as well. And by having 2 of them, we get a really good positioning, and this is how we play most of the time. Next up, we do have a source of the secret damage for 15% one shot, and also this is a defensive spell. If you look into my stats, I currently have a really high resistance. You don't need this high resistance, but the fact that you can have rare armor or legendary armor that actually give you high resistance, those by no means are the best ones. I've seen legendaries with 900 or 1000, I've seen helmet with over 600, so you can get close to 90% resistance with 25k and plus. And having the Ballhawk up down give us a little more resistance and also give us the source of the AoE secret damage, which one-shots people. And it does look pretty cool, right, with the shield. Last up, we have the nuclear spell, which is going to be the Havoc Orb. This is a very nice spell, I'll show you guys here. It looks like a small nuke, and it actually does a ton of damage, simply because we do have the perk over here, which I'll explain all the talent tree with you guys after. The perk of Immortal Offering, we debuff at least 5 or 6 different debuffs, and with those elements, those perk here, currently we're doing about 31k, it hits up to 70k plus, and that's before we quit, and this is before any of the multipliers. So when we quit, we do have a pretty high crit rate at 64% or even higher, with 461 critical damage. So this is the source of nuclear damage, and once you see my particular gameplay, you realize there's so much damage that's dealt. As long as we position properly, it will be very strong. So basically the skill rotation is going to go invisible, and while invisible we can cast a few skills, and we get enough willpower, we group enemies. Because we're invisible, we get a really good positioning. After that, we should be look towards to get the bulk off done, because that debuff enemies with weakness and also shock, and also it gives us protection. When this is done, we have lots of rage, we just havoc off them and they usually explode. No matter how many million, like 1 million, 5 million or even 8 million, the normal specialist mobs just explode, usually with one combo. And if they're still alive, go invisible again, get some willpower. If you have willpower, just cast Anomaly again, go with the railgun for a little regen, cast again, and just repeat the same thing. Usually most things don't survive 2 combos. We do have to play a little smart, because, well, we're like a ghost unit. We shouldn't be tanking face on, and in the replay you'll see the different playstyle. If I tank face on, that's not very good, but if I play smart, it's really to our advantage, and we do tons of damage. And yep, that's enough for the preview. Let's go into the replay, then I'll go through everything with you guys. So let's go into the 1-7 with Untainted. Usually when we're looking for the modifiers, we're really looking for increased enemy movement speed, because they can chase us better, and also we're looking for the ones that actually spawns enemies upon death, which is a really good modifier for us, because this actually increases our damage by like 200%. And because we explode them, it's very nice. So we're getting right into it. As you can see, currently I do have the trial equipped, but you don't need the trial, you just have to remember to cast Q once you group them. So we're going to go into the fights, and looking here, we're going to go permanent invisibility right at the start. I'm going to look for a good positioning, and I group them. After I debuff them, I'm going to explode them. You can see there's tons of damage once there's at least 3 or 4 together, and because we have the perk that increase damage when they're together, we actually do a chunk of damage here, and it's a really good multiplier. Notice that we group them, we explode them, and we just keep moving. So basically, we go invisible, we debuff them, we nuke them, and this repeats. And if we look closely, most of the monsters have about, let's see, 300k here. Oh, is it 3 million? 300k. It's 300k. There you go. The 300k are really easy, but once we get the bigger ones with a few million, it gets a little tricky because you do have to group them together with the weaker ones, and you still one-shot them, and that's the best thing. So there's a bunch of them, there's 1.7 million here. We group them, we get a really good angle, and one-shot. Very soon I'll show you guys what happens when we take damage which is unwanted while we're not ready. So let's have a look here. We explode everything, and I'm like, oh, item, let me click it. I was like, maybe I just stand here. So this is the problem. I got one-shotted for 2 reasons. I wasn't casting spells for life stealing, and on top of that, my defensive capacity Bohawk down wasn't on, and also I got baited by the item, you can see. So I'm like, okay, how do I kill this one? This one is about 71 million. The key is get a good positioning, group yourself next to the boss, and use the lesser minions to explode next to him. Notice we'll get him to close to 15%. Once he's 15%, he will just snap. And very soon, there you go. He exploded because, well, the 15% secret damage will come in. Now the Untitled is coming. How do we deal with Untitled is we need to find a pack of monsters, and we need to, look around. I'm not killing those monsters intentionally, just so I can have some resource to explode with Untitled. As usual, we can explode them, and just it's a ton of nuke damage. I use the term nuke here. So, as you can see, the invisibility is very flexible. I get to time where I position, and I see the Untitled here. I try to explode onto them, and I didn't get it. Because I was like, oh damn, I wasted my resource. It's about 65 million Untitled. I got the second explosion onto him. I'm gonna keep going. And I know he's going to follow me. No matter if I'm invisible or not, he's going to follow me. So each time I get a good positioning, I will try to explode monsters in his pathway. I'll actually time it so that he runs into us because we can't CC him, we can't stun him, or we can't grab him. I want to time that he runs into us and then we get him. So here he's going to run in here, and it's a perfect one. Because I knew he was going to run in and I timed it correctly. You can see the Havoc Orb actually doing about 900k and plus damage. This is sometimes close to 1 million damage explosion, and this goes further when it's multi-buff. It's another Untainted, but I see a bunch of specialists. This is perfect. So I'm going to soften them up, and I might have softened them too much. So here I was thinking I'll soften them up, and he runs in, and we kill everything. But the downside is I did so much nuke damage. I think they were about 20 million, and I one-shotted them. And this Untainted is still here. I was like, what do I do with you now? You can see we can take a few hits while we lifesteal. This is the best thing. I'm trying to use the lesser minions, and again I try to bait him in. So I'm going around. I see a bunch of units. Let's do the same thing. Now I'm gonna go invisible. Notice they stop moving once I'm invisible. Give us a perfect clear. And here I actually did too much damage again. I killed them before he ran into us. So I was like, let's try again. Notice I'm doing better positioning with my actual anomaly, which gives us a lot of control. I can cast 2. I can pull them 1 step and 2 steps further. And now I have the boss going. I just goes permanently invisible, and I run super fast. Just goes invisible. I just run to the boss. The boss is a little tricky because you do want to pull him back for faster clear. You can pretty much, handle him by yourself with only off your spells, but it will take a long time. And we want to be a quicker clear, right? So here we're gonna run to the boss, and all the monsters are here. They're not even moving because they can't see us. But this is not good. I don't like the perch because I died the first time against him. Only thing you want to avoid with the boss is regeneration. Everything else will okay. So I had a look. It's like frozen material shield, this and that. This is a very tricky boss because it blinks, it moves around. It's hard to catch him with a good explosion. But I thought since we're testing the build, we might as well try him out. So it's about 84 million, not the worst HP. I want to pull him with me, so I'm still shooting him. I'm getting some willpower ready, so I can cast my anomaly. When my rage is over 750, I actually do double damage. So that gets me to like few million damage with the Havoc Up. So I'm hoping the boss comes, but I was like, oh gosh, there's Untinted. So now we're just waiting for the boss to come over. And here is where I made the mistake. I was like, I can wait for him, but the Untinted is actually controlling me too much. And I'm reluctant to actually spend my resource because I wanted the boss to come. And the hesitation actually killed me because I wasn't lifestealing again. I need to either lifesteal or go invisible away from them. And this time I was like, okay, you guys had it. You killed me, I'm just going to kill all of you. So I'm hoping the boss runs into us while I do the explosion, and the Untinted grabbed me again. I can tank up the moment I cast my spells. I noticed that I killed the 70 million HP Untinted, but the boss blinked away. This gets a little awkward. And the second explosion missed him as well. So knowing that the second explosion missed him, I really want to find a good source of damage, and I found this soul spawn. This particular thing will spawn monsters continuously, and this is perfect. So what we're going to do is we're going to lure the boss in, and this is a pretty good angle, and that's perfect. We're going to debuff, we're going to havoc off them, and there you go. One massive explosion is down to 1/3 now. And I know the monsters will get summoned again, and I just do one more explosion. And there you go. So it took me 3 seconds to nuke the boss once we got a good positioning, and I'm permanently invisible. I can cast debuffs. I can of course cast a blink if I don't need my mark of impurity labeled there. So that was a pretty good run, right? Downside is I'm still getting used to the build, and I was actually dying twice. One to the punch hook that I was looking at items. The second one I was actually dying to the boss because I was too greedy. I want to explode them onto the Untinted, but the Untinted controlled me too much. I didn't lifesteal. So if you look at the damage, 95 million is definitely from the critical damage with the maximum HP. With the excuse me, with the Havoc Up, we do about 1 million to maybe 2 million damage, one explosion, and we do shoot about 5 of them. And we do those pretty frequently. Once we get a combo, we shoot once everything dies except anything that's about 10 million, and we repeat this. But if you get a boss next to those units like that, he had 85 million, I think, and he just died within 3 seconds. So damage wise, it's not bad. We died twice, but the biggest mistake is try to not get too greedy with collecting resource for minions to explode, because sometimes if you collect too many of them, they will kill you. Because this build is built around elusive invisibility and the mobility. You can see we run fast when going invisible, we are very controllable, and we catch units off guard because, you know, we get the initiate. So let's look into the details of this particular build. This build has no requirement of uniques, no requirement of anything. You can start this build very early in the game, and as long as you have a few basic combos, you have lots of fun as well. So let's look into the attributes allocation. Usually I do want high critical chances because that's where the major source of damage comes from, because we're quite elusive, very durable with the resistance and also block chances. The block chances also for a debuff as well. So I actually went everything to ferocity, 100% ferocity. For the gears, we did find lots of toughness on it. What I want to balance is I want over 70k HP so I can actually lifesteal back. I want some toughness for that reason, but the majority goes into ferocity. You can actually have the force waiver here, but you lose so much resistance. I actually prefer have a rare or actually legendary armor. And we'll go through the armor and the gear choices. So 100% to ferocity, that's because we had about enough toughness. Usually it's about 1 to 2. So 1 toughness, 2 ferocity. And this gives us really good critical chance and really good critical damage. Next up, let's look into the talents. And after the talents, I'll also share one of the earlier game builds for you guys. I probably do a level 41, maybe level 60, then I'll do a level 75 one, and this is the level 91. Getting right into it, basically we'll curve the offensive talent tree because we're a range character. We don't benefit from the melee damage, we only benefit from the critical damage. And we do want to pick this one for the high critical chance. This gives us about 4 or 5 at least critical chance %, and that's actually okay. After that, because we want to do high amount of burst damage and there's not a massive dependence on the element stacks, we'll be debuffing enemies for sure, and we get at least 5 of the immortal offerings. So we definitely take immortal offering for almost double our damage, but I don't think it's necessary to take the 2 element stacks. It does reduce 30% damage, which is not a lot, but anything will help the nuclear damage, right? So I didn't take this one as a personal preference. Next up, we want to inflict elements, but I don't need 100% elements, so I actually went for 1 point of that. Also, I went for one point of that, so this is a must. So we get all the 5 or 6 elements onto enemies. A lot of debuffs, reduction to damage, really good. After that, we'll be going to the Secret Damage Smite, which is going to be a good additional source of damage. This helps us nuke enemies down when we get them terribly low. So 15% they get one-shotted. We'll be coming towards here because we want basically the Salvatory Ankle, which is the best source of resistance defense for us, with the helmet and the chest. As we go there, we can go for this perk. This is actually a very strong perk for us, because this, I believe, could be a multiplier, and having those two together, so each enemies will get 5% more damage. And we group like 10 of them together, and that's 50 to 100% damage at times. Sometimes we group like 20, because there's a lot of summons that we position really well. And when it's together, and you do a chunk of damage, your damage skyrockets. And this is a really good, like 2 points while we curve towards there. I do have a bit of life still because I do so much damage. If I am attacking, or even if I get grabbed during the replay, if I have any source of damage down on the floor, I actually don't die. So I don't think I needed one more perk. I don't think I needed those two. So global 2% is actually okay. After that, for unspent rage, we actually increase damage. And we have about, let's say our rage, we have 1550. This gives us at least 20% or 30% damage at times. We also get more rage on kill, so our rage is almost infinite. I actually didn't use any of the potion during the replay, so that's how good the rage aim was. Next up, this is a very strong multiplier by any build, and this actually multiplies your damage by 25%. Enemy take 25% more damage, and because we have status 100%, we have so many disables, this is a guaranteed damage. We always wanted a perk for this. If I didn't need this perk, I can adjust my wheel a little bit, but because I wanted this perk, I'm actually using the wheel this way. And yeah, this is a must-have for most of the builds. After that, we're going to perk towards physical damage, and into basically the resistance armor and the chest. And after that, because at times I don't stand still all the time, but if I happen to be so, I want to have the highest resistance, and this basically gives me more damage for standing still and more damage for the resistance. A very interesting fact is, if you do have the trial and if you're blinking, blink doesn't count as movement, so it doesn't take away the disarming vessel. That maintains your increased damage by a certain percentage, so over 10 seconds it's about 60% damage, and also that gives you 100% more resistance. So blinking around may be a good source of, increased damage at defensive capacities, if you happen to have that. After that, we will be curving towards here. We'll have the Merciless Lethality, because we do a ton of critical damage, and this really helps. Followed by that, those perks are not needed because I pegged this to a level 90. Those are definitely not needed. I actually didn't need the element chance as well. All I wanted was path towards this way and get my 150 willpower. So all those are just spare points I had. And I'll be going over here for the Blessed Mana. This gives me more resistance, stacking what I already have, and this also increases the globe drop chances. After getting the globe drop chances, I am getting another source of life regen. As long as I have damage on the floor, the globe will fly towards me because I happen to have the 15 radius pickup, and if they're flying towards me, well, we get resistance, we get life, and we don't usually die when this is happening as well. So not only life steal, also globe regen. I don't need that much HP because HP is just numbers. We want resistance, which reduces damage, and that helps us to be even tankier. So we want for the resistance. I know I'll be going to the left and right. So coming back here, I want all the perks here, which gives me a massive multiplier with status. This is a massive damage, 120% more damage on the debuff enemies, and I also want to be tankier with this particular perk. This particular perk is really good for the not getting one-shotted. This allows us to get healed from the orbs and also lifesteal. So Dying Structure is a must-have for most builds for now as well. I am trying to get some block chances because the build requires us to debuff enemies. The more we debuff, the weaker they are, because weakness reduces the damage taken, weakness increases the damage taken and reduce our damage taken. Because they lose damage, they also take more damage with this perk. So getting those two means I can block without a shield, and I can debuff enemies even when they attack me. And it's an AoE debuff, so usually the bosses are not hitting me, but the lesser minions are hitting me, and that debuffs the boss because he's in range. Next up, we'll be going over here because we're a willpower spender and we're going to rage. We convert willpower into rage because we're a rage spender. And this is a massive multiplier. This is how we nuke enemies. Because we group them and we'll be spending a lot of willpower spells, we have maximum rage when cast. And this gives explosion of 1 million to 2 million damage, and we hit 5 times with the Havoc Up. So this is a must-have. But when this is happening, what you tend to find is you start with no willpower. So you really have to get used to the build. You actually have to spend a little bit to get some willpower. And this is how you start. You start with an enemy. Once you get an enemy going, you can start casting other spells. Notice the rage is getting so much quicker back. You can just cast this to get more willpower. So keep that in mind. After that, the final few perks with the Duty of Exterminate and also the other two give us 400 more rage and willpower. And this is really good because the higher rage we have, the more damage we do. And this ensures that we're almost always over 750. So after that, you can go into the perks here because you get Force Shield from getting the globe, because we get lots of globe spawn and we get the increased globe pickup. Also, when you have full Force Shield, you actually reduce damage taken. So over here, you can see I have very minimum Force Shield. That means I always regain my Force Shield. And when that's high, I actually reduce damage taken again. As with the talents, I think this build can work around level 75. But the fact the build is so flexible is that I can start with offensive. I can go into the frenzied blows for more damage in the early game when I level up. After that, I can curve into debuffs, I can curve into defense, I can curve into offense. So it's your playstyle. So I'll try to share a few of the talent traits for you guys to adjust for early levels, mid level, and late game level. Next up, let's look into the perks for the skills. As we know, we are assuming we don't have the trial. So vulnerability, the increased curse, and also the explosion and also spreading is a must-have. It is optional to go for the duration. You can take away one vulnerability, go for the longer duration if you tend to find enemies are not dying when you mark them and you want longer duration. But for me, because we do so much damage, it's enough with more damage taken and it just explode. And whenever you have the cooldown, which is not long, 2.4, you should be casting it, and that helps you debuff multiple enemies. But if you do have the trial, it gets a little easier. You don't even need this spell. You can get a blink, you can get lots of good spells after that. So this trial does help, but it's not a must-have. Second to that, this is the highlight of the build as well. We're going to the Dust Shroud, and for Dust Shroud, the only thing I'm not sure with is, do I actually stay invisible when I cast spells? Which I do believe I am invisible when I cast spells. So this is when normal attack enemies. I don't think I need this perk because I don't normal attack enemies. And I'm also invisible, so I don't really need to spend 3 perks on this just for normal attack. But if it's for spell attack, then it's very worth it. So it depends. I've been testing a few times. I don't think the enemies are hitting me while I'm casting spells. So this is, subject to change. So let's see how we go. I'll be getting increased shadow damage, just another source of damage. I'll be getting curse stacks, so we debuff a little more. After that, we want this one and this one. So as an invisible unit who want to remove crowd control, we want to lose elements. This means no one can debuff you, no one can control you, as long as you're invisible, you're running around. Really good perks. And after that, we increase movement when it goes invisible, reduce cooldown. We get lower rage cost, which is not a must-have, because we have so much rage anyways. So we can perk this into something else, maybe increase dodge chance if you want. And lastly, the increased reaction is really good. So I'm currently sitting at 3.4 seconds. But if I have any of the items that actually reduce a little more cooldown, we're sitting at 100% resistance. One of the reasons I didn't go, not 100% resistance, we're sitting at 100% invisibility. One of the reasons I didn't go for the 10% cooldown is what I start to find after a few testing is, if you notice, it's 3.4 seconds, so I go invisible, and I'm invisible, I have increased critical chance, movement, etc. The moment I lose invisible, it's only 0.4 seconds, and this actually allows me to rebuff myself. But if I happen to be under 3 seconds, what's going to happen is I press it again, and then before those wells, I press it again, then the game kind of bugs out. It doesn't give me the invisibility, doesn't give me the critical chance. So you actually don't want to cast it within the duration of the first buff. So you want to cast it when those disappears, you want to cast it again. So that's why I actually stayed over 3 seconds here. Now, next up, we have the Death Railgun. The Death Railgun actually does a pack of damage. So now you look at 12k damage, but this actually goes up to 30k when you actually have all the buffs and if you're next to enemies. So we definitely want the status effect, really good for us. After that, there's a few optional ones, but I'll show you guys the the best ones we can look around. So this one is not a must-have. I thought I will be getting force damage, but I actually don't have enough stacks of force, so we still have poison because my weapon's like pretty much fully poisoned. So basically the two must-have perks are the status effect and also the gain rage if fight at the charge level. So if you don't have this perk, I'll show you guys, you'll be firing once and you get a chunk of willpower, maybe too much at times, but if you do that, not only you get a chunk of willpower, it actually kind of regenerates a bit of your rage, so it's compensating for that. So I really like this one and I want more ailment chances. Not much of the poison, so you can go anywhere for this, and as long as you don't charge this up, you can charge it up by holding onto it. There's no need to charge it up because you don't do damage with this. So basically, actually, if you charge it up, you become a sniper. Check it out. Pretty cool, right? But yeah, absolutely no need to do this. So sometimes I go for any of the critical damage because we have so much critical chance. This actually does close to 1 million damage. You don't see it, but it's 500k damage in one shot because you debuff enemies. 2 seconds later or 1.5 seconds later it's another 500k. And that actually kills everything with anomaly if you actually hitting small minions. As for anomaly, the biggest part is we can pour globes in for damage, or we can take this away. We can go for the enemies damage when they're pulled by the vortex, or we can actually do something else. For me to pour enemies in for globe damage is so I don't have too much globe on the field and sometimes I freeze the game. So this actually take away that concern. That's what does a little more damage. So you want the increased effect, you want the increased direction, go for the pour multiple enemies and go for casting twice. You don't have to cast twice, but it's just nice to have knowing that while this goes on CD, you can cast again. So I'll cast it once here. And notice I'm at like 5 second CD. What if now I want to cast it? I can cast it again. While it's on CD, you can cast it again. So this means you're always rotating your anomaly. You can always have 2 at most of the times. But because we hit so hard, we don't really need to. Next up, we have the Ballhawk of Dawn. This is a personal choice for the secret damage. And I did perk for this one. If I didn't perk for this talent, or if I didn't perk for this node, the skill node, if I didn't perk for this skill section, we wouldn't have the damage. So this is a must-have. After that, we go for increased direction. We go for the increased ailment affliction on enemies. And after that, we get the resistance. And also the healing will follow us. And lastly, we get the direction. So this is a very straightforward debuff and damage source of damage. It increase our damage by 15% when the monsters, at 15% HP, they just die. And I can also went for the, where is it? I could have went for the range spell with Solar Fall, but I start to realize is I want to get close to enemies. Because of my particular perk here that gives me 5% increased damage when I'm next to enemies, I want to get really close to them, and the Ballhawk is much better. More defensive and more offensive. Lastly, the Havoc is going to be the star of the show. This is the nuclear damage, and basically you can see we increase area of effect because we want to nuke them everyone, and after that we have 100% more weapon damage. After that, critical damage. After that, we'll be firing multiple bombs. This does reduce our damage, so notice it's about 400k, but before you have this one, you only fire one up. It's very slow, and it takes a lot of rage, and that's not what I wanted. So now, it takes the same amount of rage, but one bomb turns into 5. So let me show you guys. There you go. So you lose, 100k damage, basically 25% of your damage, but you get 5 times of that. So this is a must-have perk for us. After that, we go for ailment chance score because I want to debuff them. Not really necessary. I could go for element damage, but I don't really need that, I think. So weapon damage, I go for the critical chance. I go for more weapon damage. Not bad, but they don't give that much, to be honest. The biggest fact is, since we're next to enemies, we get so many multipliers. We get the multiplier that we debuff enemies with Immortal Offering. We get the multiplier that enemies are actually slowed, they get more damage. We get the multiplier for higher rage. We get multipliers for being standing next to them. Another multiplier for the rage over 750. Another one for the time which cannot heal. And lastly, we get the critical chance multiplier. With this many multiplier, we actually do a ton of damage. It's pretty much a small nuke, and it's 5 nuking in a row. So those are the skills, and let's go into the items now. For the items of choice for this particular build, there isn't that much must have, but it does help having a weapon that is high level with a few rolls of the flat damage and critical damage and material damage. Now the reason being is we're a fully physical lineup. The higher physical damage we do, the better. I've seen guns over 600 damage, but I think the biggest factor for a weapon here is not only the 2 flat damage you see here with Rend and Toxic, but also the percentage to material damage on the weapon. This means the damage is actually increased by 46% overall, and the sockets also are affected, I believe. And also, if you can get the critical damage into it, it's really good. If you don't, critical chance is okay, even element chance is also okay. We'll be using a gun because we want to be able to cast Mark of Purity. We also want to be able to cast the Death Gazer and also the Havoc Orb. And if you go for dagger, you can't do that. And because it's a ranger build, a gun is a must-have. Second choice is if we go for a shield or if we go for a catalyst. We want to cast spells, and that's the fact we want to cast those two. This allows us to cast the spells. We can also cast the blink if we actually had extra spot. So the catalyst is also a must-have. It's optional what you roll with the catalyst, preferably defensive 1 for the critical block for the block chance, defensive 3 for HP or resistance, or you can go for the transfer time with the support 3. So there's so many choices. If you got 3 sockets, well, this one happened to be block, but here I want transfer time, here I actually wanted the resistance, here I wanted the maximum HP, so a lot of flexibility. Oh, actually I could have been stronger. Notice the force shield there? Because I wanted high force shield for this particular perk. So we get force shield with health globe, we also get higher reduction in damage when we have higher force shield or full force shield. So I actually had a socket in here for the force shield. So for catalyst, what you're looking for is you're looking for a source of elemental damage, because this allows some of my spells to have elemental chances. Here we have shock damage added to spells, and this gives me element with shock. This gives me another source of debuff. If you look over here, we have poison and curse, that's 2. We have status, that's 3 now. We have shock and status, so that's 4. We have weakness, that's 5. We have the bleeding, which is 6. So we actually can debuff enemy 6 different debuffs, having the source of spells. It can be a freeze to spells, so force damage to spells, or maybe fire damage to spells, because all of those can be added to spells, and this will increase our element chances with a particular set. After that, any of the element chance increase is okay, or could elemental, or you can go for, the physical, that works as well. So critical damage and transfer time is what we really want, because this saves me another skill perk, say on the belt, for more critical chance, and also critical damage is a must-have. This is the source of damage. After the catalyst, we're going to the rings. The rings are pretty straightforward. You can go for material damage, which is optional. The biggest ones are the critical chance base for the ring. So you want a steel ring. A steel ring gives critical damage. On top, you can see the white numbers, 25%. After that, you can roll into maximum health, critical damage, and also resistance. Those are not legendary rings, but with those 3 perfects, you can even get better modifiers when you turn them into legendaries. This is only a level 90 ring as well. So with rings, you do get the transfer time reduction, which basically transfer everything back and back. It's so mobile. I usually look for 3 of the transfer time reduction, so it's 1 here and 1 here. As for the amulets, I want all resistance, I want HP, I want critical chance, critical damage. And there isn't that much else I want, but sometimes if I don't roll for those, I can actually roll for flat damage. I could have rolled for the higher rend damage and toxic damage. That actually increased my damage by a lot, maybe at least 20%. So here I went for the resistance and HP. So nothing too special. The attack critical chance score is not that much, only 3% I believe. Here it says 32%, right? It's only 3%. For the choice of gears, I'm looking for all resist gears, and this is the source of survivability. You don't have to go this much or resist if you have a better helm and the chest, which I can't find at this rate with the lower tier items at level 90. But if you go for level 187 and if you find better ones, that can help a lot. So with those particular gears, the helmet and chest must be heavy and they must have 2 stats. The all resist on this item and percentage all resist. This gives you the best resistance, and this is a massive source of defense. The sockets are optional. If you want HP, go for HP. If you want the force shield for defensive capacities, you can consider that. But I recommend going for resistance, HP, or block chances. After that, the choice of the stats after resistance will be cooldown. Because we'll have cooldown on the helmet, cooldown on the chest. Actually, no, this cooldown doesn't go onto the chest. No wonder I wasn't at full cooldown. So there was a cooldown on the chest before, and this cooldown on the legging. So 3 cooldown reduction will take you below 3 seconds, but I think 3.4 seconds is okay. This gives us, pretty much permanent invisibility. And this is the, the fun part of the build. After those, you want 1 raw stat. Raw stat is better than critical chance. Raw stat is better than a lot of things. I'm looking for toughness and ferocity, because if we get higher toughness, we can perk into ferocity. If my ferocity is high, I can perk into toughness. So I always do my points at the end. So I look at my stats, I'll be like, okay, I need this much HP, I need this much critical chance. So I can perk for it after I've put out my items. And also toughness and ferocity give us damage too, which is a big factor. 70 toughness give us, how much is that? 0.7. It gave us 28% damage reduction, damage increase for everything, because 70 times 0.4% is 28%, very strong. Similarly, I'm going for the shoulders and gloves. You can see for now we went for all the resistance, we went for toughness and critical chance. We could have went for the ferocity, critical chance, and tough, and also the resistance. Those are optional. And sometimes you can even go for the reduction of resource. For me, I didn't have a problem with my resource spending. You can see that most of my resources is actually spending really high just because of the combo. I'm actually having trouble get willpower. So for me, I didn't need to reduce the resource. I actually want to spend a little more so I get more of my spells off. Most of the time we're over the rage. If I go under the rage, well, it's easy. We just cast a spell and then come back. And if I still need more rage, I have 2 potions ready. As you can see, the gloves are pretty much the same. We just copy pasted in the offline. So that's the only thing that's like, the same. And for the belt can get critical chance score. You can also get critical damage. So those are really good on the white belt, the white part of the belt on top. And also you can get the damage to spells. You can get damage to attack, which are really good. I just found a really random belt. And this is actually looted from the floor. You can get all resist, you can get critical chance, critical damage, maximum to HP. There's so much to roll for the belt. If you don't have the trial, your stats will be at least 20% or 15% better than those with the trial, but you do have to manually cast this. But if you have the trial, I still recommend the trial. If you don't have it, consider this belt. You can go for more critical chance on the socket, or go for transfer time, or you can go for the, I think those are the best. And because we have to crit, and when we crit, we hit so much harder. So here it is, guys. I'll show you guys the whole combo again. Basically, I'm running invisible almost all the time, and I will run pretty fast. This is with the vessel points. Once the vessel points disappear, we run even faster. And because I'm running around with invisibility, I have enough willpower to start my anomaly. And I just debuff them, I cast my D, I explode them. And if they happen to be still alive, I go invisible again, I debuff them, cast anomaly, and then I can explode them again. If they're still alive, I can do the combo again. But if I need more willpower, or if I need more rage, it depends what I need. If I need more rage, I can be casting spells. I can be using potions. If I need more willpower, I should be casting the Death Gazer Razor Gun. And this gives me the best willpower. It doesn't give me that much, but it's enough to cast both of the spells. So let's have a look. We cast once, we get enough, then we cast one. And if it's not enough, we cast again, then we cast the other one. That's enough. Also, casting the Dust Shroud also gives us more willpower, which is really good, because we have this on all the time. One thing for sure is, most people miss that Dust Shroud. It doesn't say it gives you critical chance, but when we have it on as a permanent invisibility ghost, this gives us 6% critical chance, and that's pretty massive. See, the damage actually goes up by a lot by showing the numbers. Yeah, that's a lot of damage, right? So, hopefully you guys enjoyed this particular build. Please like and subscribe onto the YouTube channel to support me, and for more builds and more tips to come with Wolcen and more action RPG games. I think Path of Exile is coming as soon as well. We're looking into that. And also, if you want to support me further on Twitch, definitely come over to say hi. If you have a Twitch Prime, definitely consider using that with us here. As for the direction of Wolcen, I'm waiting for more patches and more updates, because I am pretty knowledgeable with most of the builds now. I've been searching other builds, been testing a lot of things offline, and as the next part of the series for YouTube channel, I'll be looking at different mods, different type of playstyle that people actually play offline. One of the best thing I actually have with Skyrim, if you guys have played it, is actually playing mods with Skyrim. There's like infinite gravity mods, there's like infinite arrows, there's so many mods with Skyrim. We'll be looking into offline fun playstyles. I've seen one with a fireball that is the size of the map, and you just shoot one fireball, everything kind of explodes. It's definitely not balanced, and it's just here for fun with, offline style, and just, that's part of the game. Skyrim was really fun because of mods, and I want to look into different mods with Wolcen. I'll share some of the fun ones with you guys. I'll show you the direction, how to adjust the files for different mods. But the normal builds we have here, there's no mods included. So there's two parts of the series of videos. One, I'll state there's a mod. The other one, I'll tell you guys, it's just a normal build for the online account as well. Thank you again for watching, guys. And, well, more Wolcen will be coming, and more Path of Exile will be coming as well. Super excited. I'll see you guys next time. Take care, my friends.